Hi, welcome back to Biz Jet TV. It's Fab Poli here today, and we're going to be talking about Apollo 11 and the space program. Now, what's a space program and Apollo 11 to do with private jets? Well, you'll find out shortly. But I wanted to really talk about the Apollo 11. It's 50 years now since we first walked on the moon. And the space program, the Apollo space program, has really influenced me to get involved in aviation, have a career in aviation. I was born the same year that man walked on the moon, just a couple of months before Neil Armstrong did that. My mother always tells me the story that she was feeding me at 2 o'clock in the morning and she brought me up to the TV to see Neil Armstrong step on the moon. And that's what planted that seed in my mind about getting involved in space and aviation. So here I am today, and I want to talk about the space program, about Apollo 11, and a lot of people criticize the fact that a lot of money was spent to take man to the moon, and then after 1972, because of the Vietnam War and all those things that were going on at the time, the political upheaval that was going on, the American government decided to pull from going back to the moon and establishing a lunar base. And a lot of people say it was a waste of money should be spent here, blah, blah, blah. But what they don't realise is that as a result of the Apollo space program, a lot of technologies have been developed. And one of them, which is really influencing the world and which is speeding everything up, is the internet. Yes, the internet was developed as a result of technologies that they had in place for the Apollo space program. So thanks to Neil Armstrong and his buddies and all the scientists at NASA, today the internet is here. So, just the other day, President Trump, United States President, had a meeting in the Oval Office with Buzz Aldrin, Michael Collins, Neil Armstrong's founder. Neil Armstrong was the first man to walk on the moon, and the director of NASA, and a few other people to talk about the space program. And you can see this video on YouTube, and I'll just post the link here. And it's interesting the conversation they had because Buzz Aldrin's saying we need to go to Mars, and NASA's saying we need to establish a lunar presence first. So we need to build this gateway space station that will orbit the moon. We need to put man back on the moon and maybe a base there. They want to travel to the North Pole and South Pole where they believe they found water. And this is going to be quite important for long expeditions into space and being able to take that water, because that water can be turned into fuel for the rockets, and it can be turned into water to drink to sustain the astronauts. So lots of discussion around that. Now, the thing I find interesting is that the President of the United States has committed the US to set foot back on the moon by 2024, and he wants to actually land a woman on the moon. And he's saying the next astronauts on the moon will be American, and this is what the American government is saying. But we also know that the Chinese are developing their own team and their own program to land man on the moon, and so are the Russians, and so are the Indians, and probably a few others. But I think the most interesting thing and the most interesting development for space is going to come from the private sector. Now, we've got three great private jet users and owners. Richard Branson, who loves his private jet. He loves the Falcon 7X. We've got Elon Musk, who loves his Gulfstream G650. And we have Jeff Bezos, who loves his Gulfstream too. Now, all these three entrepreneurs fly private jets. They've got a lot of money. They are billionaires. And they also have their own private space programs. SpaceX for Elon Musk, Blue Origin for Jeff Bezos, and Virgin Galactic for Richard Branson. So they all have different ways of doing it, but they're all plugging a lot of money and some they've got very good teams together of engineers and scientists working on taking already satellites into orbit, taking stuff up to the space station, and all three of these. In fact, Elon Musk said the other day, I can land man on the moon sooner than NASA. So there's a bit of a race going on. But the good thing is that as a result of going into space, we can mine asteroids, we can mine the moon, we can find other sorts of minerals and that on Mars. All this is going to help us develop better technologies to improve life here on Earth. In fact, Elon Musk is already talking about using his SpaceX rockets to travel from anywhere to anywhere within the Earth's atmosphere in less than an hour with 1,000 passengers on board. And I've talked about this before. So you imagine getting on a rocket in London and stepping off the rocket 35 minutes later in Sydney, Australia. Now, how is this going to change air travel? Yes. So don't worry too much about the Airbus 380 or the 747-800 because or paying $25,000 to fly in that luxury cabin on an Emirates 380 from London to Dubai, because soon we'll be flying on rockets. So there's lots of interesting things happening as a result of this new race to space. And I think the fact that we've got these billionaires involved, they have a lot of money. This is not going to cost the taxpayer money. But what, you know, man on the street needs to realize is that there's going to be a lot of benefit for mankind from the technologies which we can use here on Earth, and from developing technology to propel us beyond our solar system. And there are a number of planets that NASA's already discovered which can sustain human life, the closest one being orbiting Proxima Centauri. They call the planet Proxima b, which I believe is just under 5 light years away from Earth. So as soon as we develop the technology to be able to travel beyond the speed of light, we will be able to go and colonize these planets, and people will be able to go and live there. They also want to create habitat on the moon for man and Mars, but you know, going beyond and going to planets which are similar to Earth is the interesting one. Now, the reason why I got involved in aviation, I grew up watching the Apollo space program and space shuttle program, Skylab, also watching programs like Star Trek, The $6 Million Man, Star Wars, Stargate, you know, all those sci-fi things are something that I really enjoy, and have inspired me to get involved in aviation, become a pilot, fly jets, fly around the world. But the thing that really got me, and I really wanted to go beyond and you know, go into space, but not orbiting Earth for a year. I find that extremely boring. I mean, for me, going into space was going to other planets and meeting people from other planets, which hasn't happened yet. So anyway, and I do find, you know, 50 years later, we still haven't been back out to the moon. There are obviously reasons for that, but I wouldn't worry too much whether we went or not, or we found aliens on the moon, because in the next 10 years, we're going back to the moon, we're going to Mars, and hopefully we'll be going out there where no man has been before, to use a Star Trek analogy there. But anyway, that's all about the space program, Apollo 11, and you know, the fact that we have these 3 private jet owners that are out there and pushing their space programs. There's lots of opportunity on the asteroids for mining, on Mars and on the moon. So lots of new technologies are going to be developed as a result of this. We just have this need for speed. We need to get faster with our travel, because everything has got faster except air travel. But air travel is about to get faster, and hopefully we'll develop that technology to be able to go from our solar system to another star system and beyond. Well, post your comments below about this video and share this video. If you haven't already subscribed, subscribe to this video. And that's all from Fab Poli on Biz Jet TV, and I'll see you on the next one.